Yo, brother.
Yo,
Woo!
yo.
Welcome to the Honest Creative Podcast, man. How do you feel?
Thank you. It's an honor.
It's an honor. Yo, it is an honor today to have Prin or Oapirat in this house today doing the podcast with me, Sean Chen. And I'm honored to have him today because he's one of the most talented videographers and cinematographers I've ever met. So I'm excited to dive into his creativity, into his life, into his entire journey today and learn all about you. All right, so the first question, you gotta answer it very quickly.
Yeah.
What is the first thing you think of when I say the word blue?
Well, as a cinematographer slash filmmaker, the word blue plays a big role in emotions. And I would say when I think of blue, I think of the emotion of feeling blues because you have to show that a lot. For example, in moody scenes, or scenes where the character feels lost. So I would say blue, to me, correlates to the emotion.
Man is a sad boy hours right now, man. We wouldn't even get deep into the podcast, it was already getting emotional. But I like that answer, man. I feel like sympathy for you. So you're gonna get one of the Honest Creative rendition of stickers. Hey,
Wow.
welcome to the community, brother.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the community.
I'll definitely put this on my Pelican.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anyway, we got a few questions for you today. I'm excited to learn about, and let's dive straight into it.
I'm excited to answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, the first question I would love to know about is, you're very talented, and I know that you're very young, but I also want to know, how did you get into this field or career in the first place? Like, who's the one that made something tick in your head that made you feel, I gotta do this. I gotta pick up a camera and shoot something?
Well, I would say my brother, my older brother, he was the first one in the family or of the sibling to pick up a camera and start shooting. You know, we would travel to Hong Kong or to the States.
Yeah.
And he would always have his camera with him, like a GoPro Hero 4 or a Canon G7X Mark II, something like that. And at the end of the trip, he would always, you know, edit these cool travel vlogs inspired by Casey Neistat. And every time he shows our parents, they would be wowed by it. They'd be like, wow, this is amazing. And, you know, sibling competition. I would also try to, you know, do something that would make them wow as well. So I would say, yeah, my family inspired me to do videos.
Dude, I definitely come from the same place as you, because the reason I started out is also because we go on these trips with the family, right? And then you document all these travels, document all these adventures. You come back, snip it together in your little room, and then you come out of your living room, you're like, Mom, Dad, I got something to show you. Turn off all the lights connected to the TV, and that's when the magic happens, man.
Exactly.
Dude, I love that, man. I love that. And does your brother still doing video and stuff, or just you now?
No, I think since I kind of took it more seriously.
You won the sibling rivalry?
I sort of became the video guy of the family now.
Oh.
And he's back to his original interest, which is sports.
Oh, I love that.
So right now he is excelling in sports.
Damn, I love that. And you excelling in your own field, right? So
yeah.
No more competition, but I'm sure deep down it's like, we got who's the man of the house, let's say.
Well, I wouldn't say no more competition because we do try to push each other to push boundaries, our own limits. But at the same time, because we have our own specialty now, we can also work together as a family.
True. That's awesome, man. And speaking of working, you've done some amazing work with one of the top clients in the world. Like you got Red Bull, you got Anessa, you got Valley Chain. Dude, there's like there's a lot of good clients you've been working with, man. And with that in mind, you're also very young. Do you mind sharing how old you are right now?
I just turned 20
He just turned 20, guys.
a month ago.
That's crazy. And the reason I'm asking is because at such a young age, it's rare to find people who work with such big brands, right? So my question is, do you think your age affects how people perceive you in the workplace, like in the career, in the creative environment? Do you think it helps or does it hinder?
I think at first glance, your age doesn't play a role.
Yeah.
Because you don't walk into a room with your age like tag on your head or anything.
Yeah.
It's more about your character and who you are, who you present yourself as, and that to me is more important than your age.
Okay. And what are some of the things that show people that you're working hard or that you're more mature than the age you are, right? Is there any things that you try to do on set or at a work environment that shows people that you're serious or like you're serious business?
I think with maturity comes, or with experience comes maturity.
Okay.
And through experience, you also grow as a person, which to me, on set, that could correlate with how you deal with a problem, how you handle a situation. For example, when you run into an obstacle, how do you deal with it? How do you prove to yourself, and not only to yourself, but also to your clients, that you can solve bigger problems than you yourself?
Yeah. What I've learned from working with you, because we worked a lot together, is that emotional intelligence and emotional awareness is important, especially in front of the client, right? So we've been through a lot, and I see sometimes there's a lot of things that go wrong on our shoots, right? Or like doesn't go the way as we planned. And
not because of me. It's just everything in general.
Yeah.
Uncontrolled obstacles.
But my point is that I can see you really trying to, take everything in and try to process it and then say it or explain to a client, that's okay, like let's try to figure something out, right? Instead of like breaking down on the spot and getting mad, that's like the worst thing that could happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely think one of the most important parts of showing our maturity, showing that we're professionals, is that emotional intelligence, right? Yeah.
What was the question?
No, that wasn't the question. That was just me saying my thoughts. But I definitely think that, speaking of all that obstacles, right? What is the biggest struggle in this kind of creative field? What do you think you're struggling with the most right now?
Well, it really depends which part of the process. Mm-hmm. There's always obstacles in every part of the process.
The biggest one, the one that's like, I wish I could try to learn how to be better at this.
To me, it's the business part, because as a creative, I focus a lot on being creative, and I focus a little less on the business part, which to me plays a big role in your career, in your branding, in everything that you do.
Okay. So how do you deal with it right now? Is like, are you having someone educate you, or the people around you are teaching you? How do you find this resource to develop that side?
Well, me personally, I love trying to solve a problem by myself first.
Okay.
But if I do know that I need someone with more knowledge, more experience, because I believe that you can learn a lot just by doing it yourself or figuring it out by yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
So if at some point I do run into an obstacle that I can't resolve by myself, I would ask friends who have had more working years, more experience, or they know how to deal with clients, how to communicate with clients better.
Yeah, I definitely think that the people that surround you are so important these days, because it's like they should be the people that are helping in your career, right? Helping you achieve your goals. And we're lucky enough to have everyone around us who are much older and wiser, and that we can just always like learn from them. Every time we just hang out with them, it's like, oh shit, like I learned something new, right? Especially shout out to Peeve again in this podcast. He's taught both of us a lot, and I'm very grateful to have such a nice guy like him. other than people, is there any other resources where you kind of dive into that you learn all your creative stuff from, maybe find ideas or whatnot?
Well, to me, I get a lot of inspiration through watching films, watching commercials, but I also love just, I love being surrounded by other people outside of my own field. For example, people in the music field, people in the architecture field. They bring a lot of great ideas, a lot of perspective outside of our own field. And to me, I think that's very important because when we're in our own field, we have our people who do similar things. We can get comments from them, but that's because they understand our process.
Right.
They understand our workflow.
Right.
But to other people who don't understand or have little knowledge about how we do our work and what something means in our work, I think it's a good way to get a simplified opinion or an outside opinion, which maybe none of us would have thought of.
Yeah. I definitely think that working with clients outside of our field, for example, like doctors or lawyers, and then when they ask us a question about our process, we're like, wait a minute, what do I do? You like ask yourself, right? And then you try to simplify it so you can explain it to them, and in turn that clarifies our understanding of, oh, so that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's great, man. I think how we are able to adapt ourselves to different environments and to learn from different people means that we have an open mindset. Right? Have you always had an open mindset, or is there something that you learn? Is it something that you learn to grow with or accept?
To me, I try to avoid being opinionated to one thing. I always try to be optimistic. I always try to hear both sides of stories and multiple opinions. And I think that's very important for your own work as well, having to be open-minded and listen to other people and their comments on your work.
And what happens if you have a closed mindset? Like, what do you think is like the negative about having a closed mindset?
I think the thing about having a closed mindset has the good and the bad.
Okay.
If you have a clear vision of what you want to do or a proper direction to where you want to go, having a closed mindset, I think, is a good way to, or the fastest way to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Right.
But the negative thing would also be if, it's not what people enjoy watching, if it's not like the right
Audience?
if it's not the right audience, then it might be a bit difficult to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Just because there's no support.
Yeah, I definitely, in this field, so much of it has to be with like trusting in yourself and trusting that, okay, I think this looks good and hopefully other people do, right? But there's also comes a time where you're experimenting with your craft and you're doing things that not many people are doing, right? And with that being said, that means not many people will likely like it or appreciate it. And during those times, it's when you really need to trust yourself and like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I think this looks good. It's just that people don't understand me yet. Do you think as artists, we should continue doing something that maybe we don't see the support around us helping us and keep doing it still? Or should we start doing something different so that, okay, we find support that people enjoy our work? Like, how fixated are you on this is my creativity, don't mess with it?
It really depends on what work you're doing.
Work for yourself. Like,
if it's my own work, my own story that I want to tell, then I would focus solely, or I would mainly focus on my opinion or what I think looks good. and maybe have, a few friends or close friends come help me shape my work.
Exactly.
Because those are the people who understand me very closely. And if it's my own work, then obviously it has a lot to do with me and who I am. It might not be directly my story, but it's how I would project myself or my emotions. So I think it would be good to have, close friends or family to give their opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good idea. So you've been traveling a lot, you know. I saw you were in Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, Bali. Oh, not Bali, Jakarta.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you were traveling? Like, what's the purpose of it?
Yeah, well, the main reason was to go on vacation with family.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I went on a trip with my family, like all 4 of us. So I kind of needed that to, just lay back, sit back, enjoy time with family outside of work.
Did you like shoot stuff during your trip?
Yeah, I was shooting stuff, but not for work. I was doing it for my brother because he has a project going on that that he's very passionate about.
Yeah.
And I just brought my camera to help him with that.
Okay. Because I know before this trip, you were quite stressed out about, oh my God, like this creative career, it's so stressful and pressured.
Yeah.
Do you think traveling helps you alleviate that in some sense and maybe find a new way of perspective?
I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing that if you have plenty of work.
Yeah.
Do. But if you feel stuck or if you're feeling, misdirected, I would say just take your time to travel, just go look at people in a different country, living their different lives. I think it really opens many doors to stories that you could tell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think.
No, I agree, man. I feel like, especially in Bangkok, we've been here so long. We're in this bubble, and it's like we have a certain way of creating that fulfills the market here, right? But once you go out of country, you're like, wow, I won't even be relevant if I lived here. You know what I mean? So having that perspective and bringing it back home, and you're like, okay, I want to be a bit different than all these people here, right? And I think that's what you're doing. I think that's great, man. If I were you and I'm doing this kind of stuff at your age, my parents would be like, what the heck? You should go to university and like get a real job, right? So I wanted to ask, like, what does your parents feel about what you're doing now?
Well, I started quite early, I would say, around towards the end of 9th grade, beginning of 10th grade, also during COVID. That's when I first started working part-time.
With videography?
With videography.
Okay.
Willingly. I wasn't forced to do it, I genuinely wanted to be productive with my time during lockdown. So I reached out to a friend, I asked him, hey, can I edit videos for you for free?
Yeah.
And after a while, he was like, bro, we might as well just hire you. So that was my first time
getting paid,
earning from this.
Yeah.
And since then, I started to like doing this more. And it was mostly doing it part-time because I still had to study for high school.
Right.
And after I graduated, I was already earning some salary, which my parents didn't mind. So I told them that, okay, I'd like to have a gap year and just do work full-time, which lucky enough, they fully supported it because they saw that I was earning, I was doing this, and I was happy doing it.
Wow.
So my parents, they fully support.
That's awesome, man. I mean, especially Asian parents, I know that they want you to have that stability, that consistency. Like, okay, he's got a safe job. He can just take care of himself. If he has a wife, he can take care of his baby and all that. Yeah. But obviously, this freelance career is one of the most risky things you could do, right?
Yeah.
So is it like they saw that there was enough money coming into your account and they're like, okay, no, you can live on your own? Or is it more like, okay, there's some money, but we still hope he's in the university? What do you think?
Well, I think even now, I would say I earn enough to not ask my parents for allowance.
Yeah.
Which that's one of the factors that made them, or that showed them the potential of this career. But at the same time, they still ask me occasionally, like, if I'm thinking of going to study, or if I have plans for going abroad and all that, which I completely understand. I do plan to do that at some point, but for the moment being, I'm collecting portfolio here, and once I feel like the portfolio is good enough, then I would start looking for jobs abroad.
I think once
maybe
you
connect to people abroad first and then start from there.
Yeah, I think though, if you end up having such a strong, like building up your portfolio, by that time you're gonna be having more and more clients, and you wouldn't even be thinking about like a job unless you're trying to learn something in the industry which requires maybe being in that full-time job.
Exactly.
Then perhaps, right? Because for me myself, like if I feel like whatever I want to learn from a 9 to 5, I can learn it online myself, or I can just go ask the people who are doing it now, like, how would I do this, right?
Yeah.
At least the biggest struggle, or the thing I want to learn most, if I were to get a 9 to 5, is like how a company is structured. You know, how everything is run, how there's like systems, how there's hierarchy, and because that's not something we can do as freelance. We're just on our own. You know
Well,
what I mean?
I don't think you could learn what a 9 to 5 job does online, because I feel like to understand what a 9 to 5 job is, you actually have to experience that.
Okay.
So I think with that topic of, the 9 to 5 office life, I think you actually have to go through it to understand why people do it, or why they choose that lifestyle. But to me, my lifestyle that I'm happy with is the freelance lifestyle now.
It's fun. I mean, you get to meet new people, and every time you go on a shoot, it's totally different, right? No day is the same as the other, which is the beautiful thing about this freelance career.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do feel like it's nice to have a routine. It's nice to have like, okay, wake up at this time, I got to go to exercise, get a good breakfast, and get to work, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
It's good to have a routine. It's freedom to make your own schedule. It's not freedom to do anything at any time.
Right.
Yes, that. But it's always good to structure your own schedule. Because the reason we're not doing a 9 to 5 is because we want to have our own schedule, make our own time for something, and be in order, which is curated by ourselves.
Right. That freedom, like this new generation, everyone is striving for that freedom from the corporate environment, right? Freedom just to do what you want, earn when you want, and live the life that you want. But I'm also curious, like, what is like the perfect working environment for you? Is more specifically when you're editing, because we both edit a lot, and for me, the perfect environment is just like, okay, nice cafe, my little corner to myself. No one can see my screen. I hate when people see my screen. Noise canceling headphones and just grind it out, man. Especially nice sunlight by the window, nice view. That's my go-to. I'm curious, what is it for you?
Well, the ideal environment for me, I would maybe have a friend or two.
A friend or two? You don't want to feel too lonely?
Like at the back in my editing suite.
Okay.
Just to like, when I edit something cool, I'll just show them quickly. They could give their quick opinion. Oh yeah, that's dope. Just have some friends to, hype you up for what you're doing. Because editing is a process that takes a long time.
100%.
Hours. And when you're all by yourself, noise canceling in a room or cafe, it might get a bit too inside your head, you know? You get a bit too confused between what you're supposed to do and what your mind wants to do. So I think it would be ideal to have, you know, some friends.
Okay.
Like they could be just chilling,
Yeah.
doing their own thing, but then once you want to show someone something, you can just call them like, yo, check this out, boys.
Yeah,
And I just,
that's an interesting perspective. I've never heard of someone who's like, yo, I just gotta have someone there to like talk to me, bro. Like, I need human interaction. But I think that's true. I think it's important to have feedback. For me, I feel like though, let me get my work done. Let me get my style done. Then I'll ask you when I'm ready, right? But everyone's different.
yeah, I mean, you can still do that, you know? You don't have to show them anything yet.
Yeah.
Until you feel ready to show them. And then once you show them, they can give their feedback, you know? Be like your hype man.
How do you take like feedbacks, especially let's talk about clients. Like when clients give you feedback, like I don't like this, change the music or change the title or the text. Like how do you feel, how do you manage that interaction?
Well, do what the client says.
Do what the client
Do
says?
what the client wants.
Is there a limit?
But
Is there a line where they're like, no, I can't do that's too much?
If it's beyond your, let's say, your capability, or if it's not your style, if you really feel opinionated to having this specific cut or this specific editing, then you could suggest it to them. But I wouldn't say like, no, I'm not going to change this, blah, blah, blah. You could suggest them a different or compromise with them, meet them in the middle, and, you know, agree on something.
Yeah, because especially in video, the client's always going to come back with some revisions, right? It's very rarely that the first draft and you're like, they love it.
Yeah.
So my question is like, how many times do they get to tell you what to change, and how do you manage? Is there like a contract you write? Like, how do you manage this editing portion?
Well, the proper way would just, you know, write in the contract or the quotation.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we'll give you 2-3 adjustments, and then from there, it would be extra. There would be extra costs, but I still consider myself an amateur or beginner even. I do want to make the work look as good as it can.
Right.
So I do give exceptions if I really want it to work out. But if the client is already happy with an edit, then yeah. Just
Speaking of making work look good, the thing that makes your work look good is you're really good at color grading.
Right.
And I want to ask, like, where do you learn this shit? Like, I don't learn this shit just because, like, I look on YouTube and it's like, holy shit, it's like so much I have to learn and all these like nitty gritty details, but you're sitting through that stuff? Like, what are you doing?
So how I do it is I first just watch everything. I watch movies, series.
Okay. But that's not teaching you. That's just looking at it. Yeah.
It doesn't teach you, but it helps you develop your taste.
Okay. What
you like being seen on the screen, on the big screen.
Okay.
If you think this looks good, looks amazing, if it moves you then emotionally, then I would take that, find the details, like, oh, what characteristic this frame has, go on YouTube and search for that specifically. Because to me, when people say, oh, I'm self-taught or I learned it from YouTube, it sounds cliche. It sounds too easy. Like, oh, just go on YouTube. But the thing with YouTube is because it's open for everyone to upload, you have so many information, so many creators, so many sources, but you just have to find the right tutorial, the right teacher in order to have skill, in order to develop that skill.
Okay. How do you know if someone's like the right or wrong teacher for you?
That's a good question.
For me, is I watch your video. You're interesting. I enjoy watching. It's a good process. Like it's interesting for me to watch it, and also I learn. Not because some videos are like purely educational and it's so boring, like you can't sit through it. And some are interesting, but they don't teach shit. So like, what is it for you?
To me, I would start with. I wouldn't even start with YouTube. I would first go on, let's say, Reddit. Search on, all right, which filmmaking creator or specifically colorist would you recommend watching? And you just search that on Reddit. You have a few lists, and if you see 2 or 3 names that pop up a lot, then I would check out their channel. I would also look for professionals, because in this field you could also be a professional once you have, a big camera or big equipment. But I would do sort of like a background check on those creators. I would check their work, how they teach, how they present their work, and then once I feel like, I can trust this person with their knowledge, then I would watch their videos.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. It's that in a world where anyone can upload anything, you can make yourself look like you're the best, like you're the best in the field. But like you said, you do the background check on them, and if they don't have like what they're teaching, or I do professional color grade, and you look at their video, it's like, So I think you bring up a good point. Always do your fact checking on who you're taking the information from, right? Because a lot of times these are just people who are bluffing to get views and whatnot, right? Speaking of bluffing, a lot of people like to use LUTs. And I think that's an easy way out of making a video look good. To be honest, I'm using LUTs as well. And I know you would shit on me for it, but I think it's easy. But I don't know. What do you think, as someone who's really into coloring and color grading? What do you think about LUTs?
LUTs is good to use as a reference point.
But not use in the actual video?
I would structure all the color grading by myself.
Damn.
I wouldn't use LUTs and then adjust from there.
Right.
I would use LUT for reference only.
So why is there LUTs? Who is it for?
There's LUTs for everyone. From everyone. There's so many creators with LUTs. They always come out with new presets, new packs. But you just have to find the good LUT. It sounds funny, but if you find a good LUT, you can use that for a good reference point.
Okay. I'm curious because like myself and a lot of people that I know are always like, I want to get better at grading my videos. I want to get better at making my videos look better, especially the color. What's like the first few steps that you would recommend someone like that?
I would say just in like anything in life, for example, sports or activities or even color grading, I would suggest having fun with color grading first.
Okay.
You could learn from, these tutorials that teach the basics.
Yeah.
And then you play around by yourself first, see what you like. That's sort of like the beginning of developing your style, your taste. And if you feel like it looks good, you could share it to friends or professionals. If you have friends who work professionally, you could ask them, hey, what do you think of this? And they can give you feedback as well. Or if you don't think you're getting what you want to get, then I would search again on YouTube how to get that specific style that you want.
You speak a lot about style and taste, and it seems like that's something that's really important to you, right?
Yeah.
What kind of style do you think you have? Like, what would describe this is Prin's style? Like, if I watch a video and it's like, oh shit, that's Prin's video. Like, how would we know?
Well, I think it's a little difficult nowadays to differentiate your style with other people's styles.
Why is that?
Because you essentially learn from someone else, and many people can also learn from that person. So a lot of people, if you go on Instagram, if you go on, Shot Deck or these like kind of like the Pinterest of filmmaking, then you see a lot of color grading that looks very similar, and you could barely differentiate, the difference between this person's color grading style to this person's color grading style.
Right.
But
what is Prin's color grading style? That's my question.
My color grading style, I think it depends on what I like at the moment.
What do you like at the moment?
At the moment, I'm into film emulation.
What does that mean?
It means you shoot digitally, but you make it look like film.
Mm-hmm. Is there a reason you like film emulations?
I think, well, first of all, these modern color grading style, to me right now, it's overused.
Okay.
And I think it has something to do with also just liking movies from back then.
Yeah, yeah.
So I also want my work to have that aesthetic.
Is there a certain movie that comes to mind when you're like, oh, I like that aesthetic?
If speaking only with aesthetics, I have a few movies in mind.
Okay.
And surprisingly, they're from the same cinematographer.
Okay.
His name is Linus Sandgren.
Okay.
And he's the cinematographer for La La Land, No Time to Die, and also Saltburn.
Wow.
So if you watch those three movies, you can tell that there's a specific style, specific color scheme that is, presented in all three of these films.
Wait, you said he's a colorist or he's a cinematographer?
Cinematographer.
Does he deal with color as well?
Cinematographers, directors, they deal a lot with colorists because, well, first of all, director, he has to know everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But cinematographer also has to work closely with the colorist because there could be things on set or in the frame that the cinematographer likes, but the colorist also knows or has the knowledge when it comes to mastering the final cut to show it on screen. So maybe there are limitations, or maybe while shooting the camera couldn't really capture a certain color, then the colorist can now come into play and present ideas or suggest adjustments to the frame.
Okay. Out of all these different roles, like director, cinematographer, colorist, what do you see yourself wanting to be or trying to be?
Well, I'd like to be a director someday, but for the time being, I'm more of a cinematographer or director of photography because I enjoy picking up a camera, I enjoy finding good angles, and I enjoy telling a story through framing or composition.
What's like the most important personality trait of being a cinematographer?
What do you mean by personality?
Okay, for me, I'm a photographer and take portraits.
Right.
I think one of the most important personality about being a portrait photographer is liking or wanting to understand people, right? Like, because a lot of times I see portrait photographers, they do shoots with people and they don't even interact. They don't give a shit about who's in front of the camera. They just want to get the job done. But for me, it's like, I'm genuinely curious about why you're here. Why do you want me to photograph you? What do you want to use a photograph for? I'm just genuinely curious, and by asking and interacting with people, it makes them more comfortable. And when they're more comfortable, they can show their true emotions in front of camera, and the photos just look better. And it leads me to the point where sometimes the photos can be great, but the photo shoot experience is so bad that they don't like the photos. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, this personality trait of curiosity at people, having that genuine desire to understand them, is the important part about portrait photography.
Well, I think what you're talking about now is personality on set.
Okay.
I think that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what position you are, whether you're a cinematographer, whether you're a colorist or an editor or a director. I think that just has to do with you and who you are, who you present yourself as. And to me, my philosophy is to always make sure that everyone is comfortable on set, make sure that everyone is, feeling good, they're feeling positive, and that with that comes a good working environment.
How do you make sure everyone's comfortable? How do you know that?
There's this guy on the internet. His name is
So reliable. Guy on the internet.
His name is Nardwar.
Okay.
He is basically this, very energetic interviewer who always gives a surprise to his interviewees. For example, celebrities, rappers, mainly rappers or singers. He would do his... Okay, I'll just give a quick background of who he is.
Okay.
He would always do a lot of homework on the person he's interviewing and surprise them with questions that they wouldn't even know an interviewer would know.
Right.
For example, like Snoop Dogg's first ever film that he directed, right? This video, he just randomly grabs into his bag and shows Snoop Dogg, could you tell me something about this, movie that you made? And the crazy thing was, Snoop Dogg doesn't even have a copy of his own movie. So It was a very surprising moment. And he always has these like little surprises to people. But what I want to talk about is this one TED Talk that he did.
Oh, he did?
Where I quote, simply just ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, because the worst thing that could happen is to say no. So back to the main topic of how I make sure everyone's comfortable on set is I just ask. I just ask them straight up, like, how are you feeling? You can also just tell by like their facial expression and stuff, but you don't really know if that's like what they're actually feeling. So I would just ask, like, how are you doing? I think that's the easiest but most effective way of asking or knowing whether someone is comfortable on set or not.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I mean, I'm someone who's scared to ask, right? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel scared that if I ask, like you said, the worst that's happened is no, but I'm just scared that that interaction could turn ugly. I don't know why, but yeah, just ask, right?
I think it's social anxiety.
Yeah, honestly,
But no, I think even if you have social anxiety, like, it's still good to just ask everyone. If you're working in that environment, you just have to present yourself to be the person in charge or someone who's responsible, not just responsible for yourself, but also for other people.
Is there something that you hate the most that people you're working with do? Like, if someone does this, you're like, come on. Is there anything that comes to mind?
I mean, when they just give a bad attitude.
Like,
I always try to...
Have you met people who gave a bad attitude on set?
Yeah, there's like a few occasions where someone would maybe like they're not having their best day or something happened to them and they're just not putting in all the effort on set, which to me seems a bit disrespectful because everyone is there. They're all trying to get the job done. So even if you have a bad day or you're going through something, it's either you just show up or you don't show up.
Right.
Just don't show up with a bad attitude. That's like the main thing.
Because one bad attitude person can ruin the whole crew, the whole team.
Yeah, like it spreads, like that thing spreads, like negativity and bad like energy.
Yeah.
It just makes people worry more about you, and they would be worried as well, and everyone gets, worried, and it distracts everyone from getting the job done.
On the opposite spectrum, I'm curious, is there anything that makes a client or someone like, I love working with this guy, or I love working with this girl because they do this? Is there something that comes to mind?
Well, yeah, the opposite of giving bad energy.
Giving a good attitude?
Yeah, like, you don't have to always do it on set, but if you're just having a good time, it shows, like, and I think that comes with making sure that everyone is comfortable or is on the right mind to work, is that you can't always find the perfect environment on set. It doesn't come to you. I think you have to create it. I think you have to create that environment in order to have a good experience.
Okay. Damn, that was a nice little quote you got there. But for me, especially the clients I find memorable are the ones that come to me because they like my work. They're like,
yeah,
we don't want anyone else. We only looked at you because we love your work, right? And for me, that's like, dude, thank you. Like, thank you for appreciating my art. I'm all in for you. Just them showing me their appreciation really makes me feel appreciated, and I want to give back, right? So that's kind of the clients I like working with, the people I like working with.
Yeah.
Then what are some of, I guess, the dream clients you want to shoot for? I know there's a lot of brands out there, a lot of things you want to do, but we got to have some, if I shot for this brand, that means I made it. Who is it for you?
Well, I mean, my goal is to not really shoot commercial. My goal is to shoot more narrative, like feature films and documentaries. If we're talking about feature films, I would love to work with professional actors, like Hollywood, let's say.
Is there something that you will make you realize that I made it? Like, this is what I've been working for? Is it like you want to make a feature film? Like, what is it?
My end goal, I'll say it here. People are going to come back to this video. I want to win an Oscars.
Oh my God.
If by then the Oscars is still relevant,
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Damn. Win an Oscars for cinematography or what?
Anything, yeah.
Anything. Like, just win it.
Best director, best cinematographer, best picture. That would be nice.
Damn.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful, man. We're nearing the end, but I would love to ask, is there any tips you would give upcoming videographers and cinematographers who want to reach a similar goal that you have, or who want to be like you? Is there anything you could teach them? They're starting from zero. What would you tell them?
It might sound funny, but it might not even have to do anything with cameras or working. But to me, one of the most important aspects or traits is personality.
That's okay. Yeah. Personality.
I would say be a good person first of all. Like, be kind to everyone, be joyful, because when you have that energy, when you have that character, people just want to be around you, or people will bring you to other people, I think it's all about networking, because you just have to know the right people to get to where you want to be. You could be the best at what you do. You can have, like the best style, the best equipments, but if you don't have the right connections, then it's a more difficult path to take than if you would know someone or have a good network. So for anyone who's starting out, I would recommend building a good network.
That's beautiful, man. And any other goals or things you're aspiring to do in the upcoming future?
I would love to shoot a documentary for Eileen Gu.
Oh my God! Confessing his love at last. That is
No. No, it's just she is, to me, generational.
Generational.
She's really generational. Just what she does, what she studies, her mindset, her ethic,
Yeah.
and just trying to build or inspire other people as well. You know, I think to me that's to have all that in one person. I think it's generational.
Yeah, we could go all day about him confessing his appreciation and admiration for Eileen Gu, but yeah, man, documentary. I can definitely see you making. I mean, you've been making a few in the past few years, right? So definitely you're on the right track. And
Hopefully.
thank you for bringing the Honest Creative into your path as well.
Yeah,
I appreciate your time today. And yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Very
sir.
happy with these questions.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad I could answer all of them.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one. Woo!